Hello and welcome back to Cities Skylines. I'm looking at the map editor today. Been playing around with it pretty much all weekend, and well, as much of the weekend as I've gotten through so far. And thought I'd kind of show off a couple things I've learned. First off, there's a website you can go to called Terrain.Party, which will provide perfectly scaled for Cities Skylines grayscale height maps of pretty much any point in the world. So, as kind of a little challenge to myself, I decided to model the area where I grew up around Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I discovered a couple interesting things about the height map. Once you get one of these things imported, it really gives you an appreciation of the scale of some of these maps, and actually a scale of cities. Tulsa is not really a very big town, but it has infilled so much with what were suburbs and smaller towns all around it, that even this huge honkin' chunk of map here barely covers it. Like, this is pretty much the section of Tulsa I am the least familiar with. This would be where downtown's at. I'm more familiar with things more towards the north and to the east. Out this way you get to a small town called Broken Arrow, which is where I had my first mechanic job. And actually, if I were to look at this on Google Earth, where I used to work at Nissan would probably be like this way, and then it'd probably be somewhere around in this range, not even covered. But this is still a huge freaking map. Now, it's the Great Plains, so it's freaking boring as far as land contours go. So you have a couple options. Right now you can kind of see the bare outline of the Arkansas River. This is the actual river path, this narrow section here. I hope this turns up after I process this in Lightworks. And this right here is the Arkansas River Valley. This is all heavily developed industrial stuff. There's the Sunoco refinery about right here, and this is what they call Turkey Mountain, very generously dubbed a mountain. It's a very big hill, but it's rocky, so I guess that's I guess it counts in their book. And over here is a huge railway marshalling yard. So this is actually, it's a very shallow river, and most people might go, well, that's shallow because the satellite was reading the surface of the water. If you've ever been to Tulsa, Oklahoma, you'll actually know what water. This is a really good demonstration of the actual river depth, because the Arkansas River, when it gets to Tulsa, is dry pretty much 11 months out of the year. Occasionally, if they get flooding in Colorado, it'll pretty much flush itself, but it doesn't last. The Army Corps of Engineers has been saying for decades that they're going to keep water in it year-round. Every time you ask them for the past 10 years, they said it's 2 years away. So probably, maybe once I finally finish college, get a job, or a better job, and move away, they'll finally pull it off. But I am not holding my breath. It's really interesting simulating rivers in Cities Skylines, because it's a CFD, computational fluid dynamics model. It's obviously very simplified compared to what you'd get in reality. But by jacking up the water level, because Cities Skylines requires flowing water in your starter square, we've got to kind of go against reality and put some water in the river. It flows from here to here. And if you look at the elevation map, I don't know if it's got enough gradient on it. Now it all looks kind of the same elevation. Anyway, we will go back to the water where I was going before I got distracted, and we're going to plop down a water spawner. And we're going to change the height so it'll stay. We're going to give it a little more because it will funnel out and it's not actually going to spread out across that whole distance. See, water starts to spread. We will crank the speed. And it's kind of neat because this it's pretty good simulation of some of the heavy flooding we had in the early 90s down pretty much the entire Mississippi tributary system. And The Arkansas River itself doesn't feed into the Mississippi, but through a system of tributaries, there is a little bit of link up. So the really big flood the Midwest had in '93, we did get a little bit of that down here. I was actually up in Kansas at the time, right along the Kansas River, and that was very interesting. The little town I was in called Wamego, the water line is usually about 20 to 30 feet below where the top of the landmass is. And I was 7 years old, and I still distinctly remember they were having to sandbag in the main town because the river was threatening to come up over the banks. But this is an actual little island out in the river. At least it's an island when there's water in it. It's not a perfect simulation, so occasionally the water level will kind of stall out, say about around here. And you can, if you're trying to simulate a real river and you find out your water is just not quite reaching, you can kind of adjust this, get to the correct size, and then drop it down. And it'll fill up enough. What'll happen is when this water mass meets, because this will actually be lower than its set level, it'll start draining here while producing new water here. And it'll actually, it'll still look right. But still, you see, that's kind of, it's not the best defined thing. And you've got a couple options here. Let me delete the water here. Oh, did that wrong. Okay, clearing out the water. I was messing around with this, and what I first did was I brought this into Photoshop, and I kind of adjusted the contrast. And you see how everything got a little better defined there. Well, kind of. Let's see, height map merged. Yeah, you can see it kind of gets a little better defined there, just to really show off how much you can mess with the height maps using contrast. I do that. Oh, come on, load the correct one. There we go. And all of a sudden, Tulsa looks like Denver. That was like a 20% contrast change right there. So pretty extreme, but you actually lose the fine detail in the river. What I found was about 5 or so was pretty good. There's my sea level jacking with me. I'm gonna crank that down. But if you're trying, I did not put boat traffic on my map because this section of the Arkansas River is not, you just can't drive a boat on it. It's not, there's never enough water in it at any given time. But if you want to design a landlocked map and you're not getting quite enough flow out of your river, one of the options you have is going into the terrain editor tools. And you can bring up the shift tool. We'll make the brush size maximum here. That's a little bit extreme. Just enough to cover the river. That'll be good. And we're going to take the strength down to about 0.01 because the shift tool is actually very, very, it's very aggressive. And so if you do this, keep yourself moving quite briskly, otherwise you end up pretty much digging a very deep tunnel. Or trench, not tunnel. And doing that, I believe... Well, no, wrong tool, sorry. Actually, no, correct tool, wrong application of it. We want it just inside the river. And we'll actually use this brush because it's more of a gradient. Nope, not strength. We're going to change the size. There we go. And this allows you to add a little more definition to what would otherwise be a pretty shallow river. And this is just, I'm messing around. I'm not being as obsessive about this as I was on some other maps that I've done. Because it was a lot of experimenting. And with that, you can drop your water spawner in. And it'll generally hold its contour a lot better. You can see that's following a lot nicer. It's made those banks a lot steeper from what they were originally. Remember, there were absolutely no rocky angle there at all. But just going to get whooshed away by the flood here. And so that's just some of the considerations. I actually resized the map for gameplay perspective because it was so boring. By changing the scale at Terrain.Party, you can get a little more land features in. It messes with the scale a bit, but makes things a little more interesting to play on. And so what I have actually done, what's my latest one? Gonna have to go by time. Crap. I've been making a lot of changes with this recently, so excuse me. I'm gonna load this one. I think this is my finished. Yep. And so, just to kind of give a breakdown of the actual map that I created, because I am going to publish this on Steam in case anyone's interested in messing with a boring little Great Plains barely city. That's a little insulting. It's kind of a big place. But anyway, this is the compromise map I did. Everything's shrunk down a bit. The river's a lot smaller than it normally is, but I don't have any boat connections because, as I said, you're not going to have any river connections at this section of the Arkansas River. And I have tried to faithfully model Tulsa's confusing fustercluck of a highway system. This is all scaled down quite a bit, but not that much. It's more of the landforms being more squidged together than anything else. But this is Highway 4, no, this is 244. And this is 244. We have highways that go, the same highway going west to east and north to south. And they do that because actually 244 merges with Highway 412, which this heads out west. This will take you Oklahoma City or, you know, to the more interesting parts of the country. Well, actually, more interesting parts of the country are that way, too. It's kind of boring out here. This is U.S. Interstate 75. This will take you up to Kansas, which, as a long-term resident of Kansas, not much more interesting up there. It's where my grandparents live. Spent many, many summers up there. And south will get you down to the land of Texas and pretty much my NASA and the Austin Formula One track are my main points of interest in Texas. But pretty much in Tulsa, it seems like whenever a new highway has to be tied into an existing system, instead of coming up with a more elegant system, which it'll put the highway down longer, but it'll simplify things in the long run, they just kind of tie things together in a haphazard, drunken fashion. It's actually quite efficient when you think about it, because I have a north, south, east, or what am I doing? North, south, east, and west highway connections, but I only actually have 3 highways instead of 4. Because 75 at this stage, because 244 curves over southwards anyway, they just take 75 and bend it over to the west and then tie it into 244. So if you want to go back north, you follow the road, and you take this on-ramp, and you're heading back north. If you need to go south, then you take a right, and you kind of curve around this. This is not a perfect representation of the highway system out here. If I got really anal retentive, I could probably spend like a couple days ironing this out to make it look exactly correct. But honestly, I don't have that patience. I've learned a lot about the road editor in just the day and a half I've been screwing around with this, but I would actually like to play the game at some point instead of just playing with the map editor. And likewise, if you're coming south on 244 and you want to go left, or if you want to go west, you hang out this way. Either I left out a spur or there is actually not a way to get... Yeah, I'm sorry. You cannot get, because there's not an eastbound connection. Duh. I've been staring at this road map for a long time this weekend, and it has scrambled my brain quite a bit. This one, where 412 and 244 merge, or split off, or 244 splits off and heads out further west, this is a little more complex. These things are confusing as hell to drive on. Just maybe that's my delicate small town sensibilities, but trying to find your way around downtown. This isn't even getting downtown. This is just a spur around there. But if you head left, then you're going westbound. If you stay on 244, then you're going to end up going east eventually. And if you're coming west on 244 and you want to go, if you want to continue west on 412, then you've got to take a left and head out this way. Or come on down this way. Now, I kind of left these derpy looking crappy elevation changes in for a reason, because I wanted to demonstrate something I had learned about the map, the road editor, in case, hopefully I can save some people a lot of grief if they watch this video. You can see right here, that's a pretty extreme elevation change, and even likewise right here, it looks kind of dumb. One of the things you can do is once you get, because I had to plan this to keep these roadway supports from interfering with my other highways, and so that meant I'd drag out a short distance and stop, and then continue on. But that ends up leaving things looking kind of lumpy, and you can see that kind of bends to the left before it goes right. One of the ways you can fix that is once you get your support posts where you want them, you can drag across to where you're trying to go, and see how that smooths out quite a bit. And I can do the same thing here. I'm going to blow this out, and then I'm going to connect directly from here. And see, that's a much gentler incline, and it doesn't kind of like wave up and down. And I may be able to fix this one, but I think I've tried, and this is just kind of what you get. I'm gonna go to curved roads. If you'll snap on there. Oh, I had it. There we go. Ah. There. That looks a lot better and a lot more sane as far as reality goes. This one still... Oh, yeah, well, I'm just not going to save this. Keep forgetting this is all directional. Okay. That's, said I wasn't going to fix it, but... Oh, if you're using the curve tool, like if I wanted to have this curve kind of just gently pile into there, drag out completely straight from your origin point so it doesn't, so you don't have any harsh corners here. And then, actually what you want to do is watch this nub where it shows the end of the curve planner is. Make sure it lines up pretty closely to where you're trying to get. You can see the highway at the top of the screen. Get that lined up a little bit better, and then there you go. And blow this chunk out too, because I am not thinking. See, these aren't quite, they're reasonably close, but we'll just kind of drag to the halfway point here. And that kind of keeps any harsh angles, which you're not going to get in a highway. And once again, I'm going to blow that and that out. And then... And this is, once you've got your system set up nicely, if you want to get super picky and make sure you have some realistic, decent looking bump up one. Well, if you want some decent looking elevation changes that aren't all wavy and kind of crazy looking, you want to go and blow out some big sections and then complete them in one solid swoop. And land contour, really, there's not going to be anything I can do about this wave, but you can see here, that looks a lot nicer and a lot more sane. So I'm probably going to start playing on this map. Oh, I'm sorry. After explaining the nuttiness of this interchange, over here is this monster, where 244 and I-75 come together. This is actually simplified, because I don't have any city streets coming together here. And this is simplified too, because there's another mini highway coming off called the LL Tisdale Expressway. It comes from further north Tulsa and then ties into the system. At that point, I thought I was going to be getting a little extreme, and then I didn't want anybody who played on this map to really feel constrained by, you know, reality. I just wanted to have north, south, east, and west highway connections, and everything else can be figured out. I highly recommend, if you're going to try to play with this, blow all this up and start with a clean slate, much more efficient connection. I'm a huge fan, once again, of the roundabout interchange. There we go. Wasn't much better. But this, I mean, it makes sense, and it is rather efficient in real life, but if you have to drive on it, thankfully in Cities Skylines, the AI can path very, very well, but they're flawless navigators. In real life, this is quite a hassle to get around. Straighten some things up a bit here. I haven't quite done a I haven't quite done a pass over here as much as I would have liked to get things more smooth looking. But anyway, if you're heading eastbound on 244 and you need to go south on 75, or to get to back there, because this is kind of an interstate system, plus, I mean, like I said, there are off-ramps all the way around here. This is all downtown Tulsa. There's this is where the few skyscrapers that are in Tulsa actually are. So, but if you need to head downtown, you turn right, and then you get onto 75. If you need to go north, you just turn left. Either way, the 244 to 75 junction, the exit will always be here if you're trying to get to 75 from 244, whether you go north or south. There you have it. Getting back on, if you're coming this way on 75, you turn right, and you will end up going this way. If you need to go the other direction, continue on just a little further, swing a left, come back up, and there you have it. And likewise, this all ties together in much the same way. To get anywhere from 75 to 244, you're going to use this ramp. They kind of splice together in this Y, and they have a common ramp coming up this way. I haven't played with this on the map, so that's, you know, we'll see what a disaster that turns into in real life. And I'm probably going to try and polish up these intersections a little better before I publish to the Steam Workshop, because it's all functional, but I want to get my curves and my elevation changes looking a lot nicer. Resources on the map, obviously there's a heck of a lot of timber. Tulsa's actually pretty generously wooded, realistically. But over here where the Sunoco refinery is, I've got the only oil deposits on the map. because I'm trying to keep that somewhat realistic. Turkey Mountain at the current point in time is actually mainly just parks and hiking trails. There was some mining going on here probably before I was born. If any of the mines were active while I was still alive, they were closed down when I was very, very young. But I've got ore deposits here. Kind of to the south, you have more rural farming area. So this is pretty much your specialized industrial zones, much like in real life. This is commercial and office, and the rest is pretty much low-density residential. So that has been a not-so-quick look at the madness I've been putting myself through over the weekend. So next time I'm doing a Cities Skylines video, I'm probably planning to do a... I am planning to do an actual Let's Play. And I'm probably going to use this map. This... Probably repeating myself here, but this is a scaled down map, of course. Just to get flowing water in your starting square, I wanted, for more variety and to get flowing water in the central starting square, on the normal map, I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'll load this back up real quick. We're going to... Whoa. Oh, crap. Well, anyway, you can move your origin point in settings. That could be your starter square. So you could just pick one that has the river flowing through it. If you're doing a landlocked single river city like I'm doing here. If you wanted to add a boat connection, really quick, I'll show you how I did this, because this map actually has a water connection on it. You have... Oh, I guess I did have this one set up. That is... No, this is a different map. Okay. I've done so many of these things, so many revisions, and just messing around that they've started running together. Anyway, to get a boat connection on a landlocked river, I have found it's necessary to go into water, take your sea level, raise it, because if I were to create a boat connection right now, I'm going to drop some water in just so it'll fill. Crank speed. Even once the water starts flowing off the map, if you were to try and create a ship connection by default, it's telling you there's not enough water. So what I end up having to do is take sea level and raise it, and usually, and you have to keep a really good eye on where your river is going to be once you finish this. But then you can create an off-map boat connection. And once you take your sea level and drop it back down, once the river refills, you can watch these connections. They'll automatically lift themselves up to the height of the water. And then you can, you know, kind of path into that. So this has been, once again, a not very quick look at the Cities Skylines map editor. I think I'm done. I'm done playing with the map editor. I want to actually get back to playing the game, because this has been a lot of learning and figuring things out. You can see this is one of the rivers that I dredged. I was a lot more careful in how deeply I did it. And this, you can, the benefits of this is you can make your water spawner much higher pressure and not run over the banks. And it still stays within the historic, realistic confines of whatever river you're trying to simulate. Although, looks like I'm drowning everybody down here. So, thanks for sticking with me. Still going to be doing Kerbal Space Program. I haven't abandoned it. This is just another game added to the list. And I will eventually get back to Homeworld. Just going to be a while. So, thank you for watching.